You know, when we spot a problem in our day-to-day lives,
Yeah.
there is this almost like overwhelming biological urge to just fix it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you see a crooked picture frame on the wall and your hands are already reaching out to straighten it before you even consciously realize what you're doing.
Yeah, you don't even think about it.
Right. You see a mess on the counter, you'll wipe it up, you just do it.
Well, I mean, our entire evolutionary advantage is basically based on tinkering and problem solving, you know? We are a species that survives by managing, adjusting, and like controlling our immediate environments.
Yeah, we're managers by nature.
Exactly. So when something is out of place, our brain flags it as this tiny threat to our order, and fixing it, that provides a hit of dopamine.
Which makes doing absolutely nothing feel like a profound failure.
It really does. It feels wrong.
Seeing a problem, especially something struggling under your direct care, and actively choosing to withhold the solution, that goes against every instinct we have.
Oh, completely.
Because we are deeply conditioned to believe that action always equals care. But today, for this deep dive, we are looking at why stepping back, tying your hands behind your back, and doing nothing might actually be the ultimate solution.
Yeah, we are exploring a radical shift in perspective today. The immense and honestly often uncomfortable power of intentional inaction.
And to explore this with you, we are looking at a single, incredibly rich source. It's a documented field note titled The Spider's Shield, Balancing Garden Ecosystems Through Natural Predation.
Such a great title.
It really is. And this is actually an excerpt from a long-running gardening diary. Specifically, it's part 943 of a series called Notes on Gardening, which was published on July 2nd, 2026.
By an author named Ang.
Right, Ang. And the mission for you, the listener, as we go through this text today, is to explore this incredibly concise, but philosophically heavy observation about microclimates.
Just reaching part 943 of any journal tells you something vital about the author, I mean.
Oh, totally. That is a lot of entries.
Yeah, this isn't a novice reacting emotionally to their first garden. This is someone with decades of meticulous daily observation.
Exactly. And we're going to learn how letting go of our ingrained urge for what Ang calls manual intervention can actually bring an entire ecosystem back from the brink. Okay, let's unpack this.
Ang's text is remarkably dense. I mean, every sentence carries a lot of weight regarding how we interact with the living world around us.
Yeah, so in this specific diary entry, Ang's attention is zeroed in on one single subject. It's a Mealycup Sage plant. The text provides the scientific name, Salvia farinaceae.
Right, Salvia farinaceae.
And this particular plant was in severe distress. It was suffering from what Ang describes as a massive pest infestation.
And for anyone cultivating a garden, an active pest infestation is usually treated as a red alert.
Yeah, full panic mode.
Exactly. The immediate assumption is that the plant is on a countdown to total destruction, and the window to save it is, closing by the hour.
But Ang's reaction completely subverts that expectation. Instead of panicking, instead of rushing in to eradicate the pest and save this suffering plant, Ang intentionally let the plant be.
Which is so hard to do.
Right. Ang just left it alone to suffer. And the text notes the explicit reason for this was to evaluate how the Mealycup sage would react to other plant species in the surrounding area.
What's fascinating here is the sheer level of psychological endurance that requires...
Yeah, it sounds exhausting.
It is, because Ang wasn't being lazy or forgetful, This wasn't a case of garden neglect. This was a deliberate, calculated test of the plant's relationship with its surrounding environment.
And the text explicitly states that this period of active observation lasted for a few months.
A few months.
Months of just watching it get eaten.
Yeah. I was trying to think of how to describe the specific friction of this feeling. It's like, okay, it's like noticing a glaring typo in an important email you're drafting, but forcing yourself to just sit there and watch it for months to see if the autocorrect eventually wakes up.
Oh, that is a great way to put it. Right. You see the error, you know it's bad, it's right in front of your face, but you force yourself to withhold the keystroke that would instantly fix it.
That captures the emotional frustration perfectly.
Yeah.
But to understand the biological mechanism at play, it's actually more akin to helicopter parenting.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, think about it. If you instantly intervene every time two kids squabble over a toy, you solve the immediate noise problem in the room.
Right, they stop crying.
Exactly. But you rob those children of the chance to develop their own conflict resolution skills. By stepping back for months, Ang is essentially asking the ecosystem, what are your innate conflict resolution skills if I refuse to manage you?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But that brings us to a massive point of tension in this text. Like, I really want to push back on Aang's decision here, because one specific detail in the source drove me crazy.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, Aang actually knew exactly how to fix the problem instantly.
Yes, the text is very clear that a cure was readily available.
The text explicitly mentions that an organic mixture of vegetable oil and detergent is always sufficient to manage a pest infestation. Always sufficient.
A guaranteed fix.
Exactly. If you have a completely organic, harmless, and guaranteed fix sitting in your kitchen, literally just vegetable oil and detergent, why on earth would you risk the plant's life by waiting months?
It does seem counterintuitive.
I mean, we aren't talking about spraying harsh, toxic chemicals that might ruin the soil or poison the groundwater. We are talking about salad dressing and dish soap. Why endure the agony of watching the plant suffer?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text isn't actually about saving one single Mealycup Sage.
It's not.
No, it's about the underlying architecture of the garden itself. It is about a concept the text refers to as the microclimate.
Okay, so we hear the word microclimate and usually think of, I don't know, a sunny valley or a coastal fog zone. But Aang is talking about a scale of inches, right?
Yeah, exactly. We are talking about a tiny self-contained ecosystem. A microclimate in this context might just be the 3-foot radius around this specific sage plant.
Wow, just 3 feet.
Right. And within that tiny space, the soil chemistry, the humidity trapped under the leaves, the temperature fluctuations, and the specific insect populations, they all have their own unique, highly delicate economy.
And Aang is arguing that manual intervention, even when that intervention is completely organic and benign, like vegetable oil and detergent, fundamentally crashes that local economy.
Yes, exactly. By stepping in with the oil and soap, you absolutely solve the immediate pest problem. The bugs are gone.
The Mealycup Sage is saved for the day.
For the day, yes. But on the macro level, you have just prevented the ecosystem from learning to balance itself.
Because you've essentially instituted martial law in that 3-foot radius.
That's a great way to put it. You have inserted yourself as the artificial regulator of that environment. The garden becomes entirely dependent on you, the human, to act as its primary defense mechanism.
So if you are always the one applying the soap and oil, the natural defenses of that microclimate never get the signal that they are needed.
Bingo. The restraint isn't about torturing the plant. It's about enduring short-term damage for the sake of long-term systemic health.
So the pests are not just an enemy to be destroyed.
No, they are a critical signal to the rest of the microclimate. A pest infestation functions as a biological distress beacon.
A distress beacon. That is wild.
Yeah, plants aren't passive victims. When they're being chewed on, they often change their physical profile, sometimes even releasing specific chemical signals into the air.
Wait, really? They release chemicals into the air when they're getting eaten?
They do. It's incredible. So if you artificially silence that beacon with a manual intervention like oil, which, remember, coats the leaves and alters the entire physical and chemical landscape of the plant, you cut off the communication within the ecosystem.
Oh, wow. Never thought about the oil blocking the signal.
Yeah. Aang wanted to evaluate how the plant would react to the surrounding area, and that requires letting the distress signal ring out loud and clear.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. Aang's agonizing waiting game, this months-long experiment in doing nothing while the beacon rings out, it actually pays off.
It does, and the outcome recorded in the diary is genuinely remarkable.
It pays off in a way far more spectacular than if they had just wiped the pests away with detergent. After a few months of suffering, the source text tells us that the Mealycup Sage fully recovered.
Just bounced right back.
Yeah, it didn't just survive, it actually resumed blooming. It pushed through the infestation and started producing flowers again entirely without human help.
It proved its resilience because the surrounding ecosystem finally answered the call.
And the text reveals exactly how this miracle occurred. The pests were eradicated by natural predators. And Aang gives us a stunning specific detail here.
This is my favorite part.
It's so cool. An unknown spider species arrived at the plant. This spider didn't just wander by and eat a few bugs. It built a nest completely surrounding the suffering plant.
The titular spider shield.
Exactly. The unknown spider wove a nest entirely around the Mealycup Sage, and that nest successfully kept the pests at bay. The spider systematically eradicated the threat and created a physical barrier that allowed the plant to resume blooming.
There is an incredible poetry to this natural defense mechanism. I mean, think about it. A fragile plant, completely overwhelmed by pests, is suddenly encased in a protective layer of silk woven by an unknown arrival.
It's like something out of a fantasy novel.
It really is. The spider essentially acted as the ecosystem's immune system.
The immune system analogy makes so much sense. Like when our bodies detect a pathogen, we don't immediately feel better. We get a fever, we feel terrible.
Right, you feel awful for a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that discomfort is the body signaling its immune system to send white blood cells to the area.
Exactly. In Aang's garden, the pests were the pathogen. The Mealycup Sage's suffering, the visible damage over those months. That was the fever.
And the unknown spider was the white blood cell rushing to the site of the infection.
Precisely. And the crucial point is that this immune response only happened. The spider only arrived precisely because Aang left the manual intervention out of the equation.
So if Aang had rushed in with the vegetable oil and detergent on day one, the pests would have been gone. The pathogen would be wiped out.
Yep, the plant would look fine, but the white blood cell, the spider would never have arrived.
Because it wouldn't have had a reason to.
Right. The spider needed the high concentration of pests as a food source to be drawn to that specific spot in the garden. By applying the quick fix, Aang would have actively repelled the natural predator.
That is so wild to think about. By trying to protect the plant with the easy fix, you actually prevent the ecosystem from deploying its own far more sophisticated protection.
Yes.
You block the arrival of the spider's shield.
And by doing that, you keep the ecosystem weak. You rob it of its ability to self-regulate.
Wow.
What truly stands out to me in the text is the specific phrasing, unknown spider species.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
It's so telling. Aang is keeping incredibly detailed notes. Part 943 of a gardening diary implies a person who maps, tracks, and categorizes their environment with intense scrutiny.
Right, this is someone who knows their garden inside and out.
Exactly. Yet the savior of the plant is a spider that Aang cannot even identify.
So why is the fact that it's unknown so important to the overall lesson?
Well, it highlights the severe limits of human knowledge and control. We do not fully understand every invisible connection, every chemical signal, or every microscopic relationship within a single microclimate.
We only see the surface.
Exactly. Nature has tools and players, like this unknown spider, that operate entirely outside our awareness.
That makes total sense.
When we enforce our manual interventions, we operate under the arrogant assumption that we know better than a deeply complex, interconnected web of life that has evolved over millions of years to balance itself.
We think we're the smartest thing in the garden.
But we aren't. Aang's humility in letting the unknown do the heavy lifting is the true lesson here. We cannot manage systems we haven't even fully mapped out.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, tuning into this deep dive today? Why should you care about an unidentified spider on a single Mealycup Sage plant in a gardening diary from 2026?
Because the underlying principle extends far beyond the borders of a garden. Aang synthesizes a beautiful final conclusion from this months-long test.
What does the text say?
The text positions leveraging natural predators as a great alternative to manual intervention. The key phrase Aang uses is that this is the required path if you want to keep the ecosystem or microclimate in balance.
In balance, that's the key word. So the ultimate goal isn't just a pest-free environment, it's a balanced environment.
Exactly, and this raises an important question. How often does our intense desire to manage things, to fix them immediately with our own guaranteed solutions, actually disrupt natural balancing acts in our broader lives?
Oh, that's heavy. We see a problem and we immediately want to apply our metaphorical vegetable oil and detergent.
We'll do it.
Yeah, we want the clean, instant, frictionless fix. Sitting in the discomfort of watching something struggle for a few months feels unbearable.
It is unbearable, but Aang's meticulous record-keeping proves that observing an ecosystem's balance takes immense, sometimes painful patience. You have to be willing to watch the suffering.
Which is so hard.
It is. You have to evaluate the subtle reactions in the surrounding area. You have to wait. But that patience yields a self-sustaining microclimate.
It builds a system that doesn't need you to micromanage its survival every single day.
Right. It's the stark difference between treating a symptom and curing the underlying vulnerability.
Because the manual intervention treats the symptom, the pests are dead. But doing nothing, allowing the natural predators to arrive and establish a physical shield that cures the underlying weakness of the microclimate.
Yes. It establishes a permanent resident predator that makes the whole system stronger and more resilient for the future.
The manual intervention is just a temporary crutch that guarantees you will have to intervene again next season.
Exactly. Whereas the natural predation is a structural upgrade to the environment itself.
It really changes how you look at every minor crisis, doesn't it? Let's briefly recap the journey of this deep dive today. We started with the suffering Mealycup Sage, a plant in visible distress.
Poor little plant.
Yeah, and we explored the immense temptation of the quick fix, that completely organic, safe mixture of vegetable oil and detergent just waiting in the kitchen to instantly solve the problem.
And then we examine the agonizing restraint required to withhold that fix. The psychological toll of months of waiting, observing, and allowing a distress beacon to ring out into the garden.
And then finally, we witnessed the ultimate triumph of that restraint. The arrival of the unknown spider, building his protective nest, creating the spider's shield, and allowing the plant to finally resume blooming.
It's a great story.
It really is. Through it all, we unpack the broader, profound lesson of trusting the delicate economy of microclimates over our own urge for manual intervention.
It is a profound lesson in biological humility. Aang's text proves that nature has its own cavalry, like that unknown spider waiting in the wings to restore balance.
Waiting for the signal.
Yes. They can only do their work, they can only arrive if we give the system the time and the space for them to be summoned.
Right.
It makes you wonder, in our own lives, when we rush to apply our own organic mixtures to instantly manage every small infestation or problem we encounter, are we actually preventing a stronger natural shield from ever being built?
That is a phenomenal question to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope you take this idea with you and that you keep observing the microclimates around you, whatever they may be, with a little more patience. Until next time.